Hi everybody, welcome back to the art studio. Here we go. It's day 2 of our 1-point perspective drawing. We're going to start off with our reviewing a few things from yesterday, and then we're going to add on to what we did yesterday. So remember, you got to have your vertical line's got to be straight up and down. Your horizontal line's got to be straight across. Okay, and you're going to use the edge of your page to figure that out. Okay, up here, my edge of my page is up there. The bottom edge of my page is down here. I'm looking at the bottom edge of my page. And over here, I've got my side of my page for my verticals. The other side of my page, when I'm over on this side, I'm looking at this side of my page over here. Use the edge of your paper. It's a nice straight vertical line for those vertical guides, okay? So to get started, I'm gonna put across the center, all the way across the center, I'm gonna do my horizon line. Now, if you don't have a ruler, you can use a piece of cardboard, the edge of a book, edge of a box, just something that's nice and straight. I'm using an old piece of illustration board here. It's gonna work great. Okay, so I'm trying to get my horizontal line nice and straight. I'm looking at the top edge of my page, and there, I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna take that all the way across. Not too dark, because you might want to erase some of that later on. Remember, if you keep everything light, it'll be easier to erase later on. Now that vanishing point, your vanishing point is gonna be on that horizon line somewhere, and you can basically put it anywhere you want on the horizon line. But to get started, just learning the ropes, learning the basics, I'm gonna put my vanishing point right here in the middle. You want to make that vanishing point dot really, really small, okay? I make mine big so you guys can all see it out there. I even put VP on there. You don't have to do that. You don't want to ruin your drawing with those letters there. But I want everybody to understand that's my vanishing point. That's where everything is going to fade and recede back to. Okay, that's going to make it look 3D, all right? Now we've got the horizon line. I'm going to write that on there too, just to remind people about that. That is our eye level line. Above it is in the sky, below it is on the ground. Below it here, we can see the tops of things. Up in here, we can see the bottom of things because they're up above our head, okay? Again, we're just going to do some basics today. We're going to do some boxes. And I'm going to talk to you about how you cut off the box a little bit to make it look like a cube or like a real cardboard box. And we're also going to do some overlapping today. All right. So to get started, we're going to just draw down in here. I'm going to draw a rectangle or a square shape. Get that all laid out here. And this we talked about yesterday, using the edges of my page for a guide to get that nice and straight, okay? Now to do my perspective lines, we're gonna line up from the corners of the box. We're gonna do 1, 2, 3, and I don't know if we're gonna do this one or not, but remember, we're gonna go all the way back to the vanishing point. Line up to the vanishing point. Here's the next one. Line it up to the vanishing point there. Line it up to the vanishing point there. All the way back to the vanishing point, okay? You want to get those lined up all the way back. All right? If you want to do this other, if you want to get fancy and do this other corner, remember, as soon as you intersect or overlap another line, that's where that line has to stop, because this side of the box hides that all the way back, okay? All right, so that's the stuff we did yesterday. Just to show you again, it's basically the same thing. If you're up in the sky, above the horizon line, above the vanishing point, nothing really. The rules don't change. You still have to have those lines going to the vanishing point perspective lines. Again, if you want to move your paper, spin your paper sideways, work on your paper sideways or upside down, whatever you need to do to make it easier to draw with that ruler, you go right ahead. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to confuse anybody out there. Keep mine taped down on the table here. But you can turn your paper. It's a lot easier to draw with a ruler if you got your paper turned sideways or something like that. Okay, where we left off yesterday, I showed you how to make these look like they don't go all the way to the vanishing point. Okay, so somewhere along here, you can cut the box off and make it look like a cube or like a block floating. So if this is vertical, this has to be vertical here. So this line and this line have to be parallel to each other. Most students can do the verticals. Those are pretty easy. People get confused though when we get down into the horizontals, okay? So right from this corner, just like we got here, I'm gonna have a nice horizontal line, vertical, horizontal. I'm gonna do the same thing, vertical, horizontal. So right here, I'm gonna have this horizontal line right there. Okay, nice and straight and flat, just like this one, okay? And that is how you can make a box. Now, if I take my eraser, I get in there with my eraser, and I take away these guidelines. Remember, if you draw them light, they erase real easy. You take those lines away, you got a real nice looking cube there, okay? And what the heck, let's do it just for fun. I'm gonna go ahead and put in this other line out of this corner. And remember, if you run into another line, you crisscross another line here, that's where that line has to stop, okay? Because it's overlapped by this edge here, okay? We talked about shading a little bit. Remember, when you're shading, you want to have those lines going up and down if it's a wall that goes up and down. So I can do that same shading here. I'm gonna make it a little darker in there, okay? But here, I'm gonna turn my shading lines. And I'm not getting too dark with it. Maybe an intensity of, oh, I don't know, a 2. Maybe in here, maybe a 3 or a 4. Again, I want this to look flat. It's the top of the box. Okay. Went off the edge there a little bit, so I'm gonna erase that a little bit. And you can see that that's starting to look like a 3D box. The edge has been cut off, and I can see inside of it. It looks open. Do the same thing down here to this one. This one's gonna be a little smaller. I'm gonna come to about here. Again, I gotta match this. If this is vertical, then this has gotta be vertical. Okay, so that's pretty easy. It's these horizontals you gotta watch out for. And this is straight across, so this has gotta be straight across. Not like this. No, that's not straight across. It's not vertical, and it's definitely not going to the vanishing point. Remember the rules. You can do vertical, you can do horizontal, or it's got to be a perspective line, and those are going to the vanishing point. So if it's not one of those things, you're probably doing something wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go in and draw in a nice, flat, straight horizontal here. And that should make that box look pretty 3D. And I'm going to take away these guidelines all the way back to the vanishing point. I don't need them anymore. And if you can see that, I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but drew a little too dark, so those lines aren't erasing too great. So you got to be careful you don't make them too dark, okay? Shading. Up and down on the sides of the walls, because we want to make them look like they're up and down. Across the top, we're going to go across. And again, if you want to turn your paper, this is a great time to do that, because shading across like this isn't as easy as going up and down. So you gotta be real careful in here. Again, I'm going across here. These lines will kind of tell you which way to shade. For the boxes and stuff like that, it's pretty easy, but you get into doing letters and stuff like that, it helps. And I went a little off in here, so I'll touch that up a little bit. And there you go. That's what we did, basically what we got to yesterday. Now I want to show you some other things that you can do. Do a little more overlapping, and the more overlapping you do, the more it's going to look 3D, okay? So let's say you wanted to build another box here, so it looks like there's another box behind this one. It could be, you know, we're just doing boxes now, but you could be thinking about, oh, okay, that could be a building or something like that on a city street. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by drawing my square. Again, I'm using horizontal lines. But I'm going to draw a square that looks like it's behind this cube, okay? I've got that square. This part of this cube overlaps. You can't see this part of the square. It's hiding back there. It's overlapped. All right, same routine, though, with my perspective lines. I'm going to take them all the way back to the vanishing point. Not too dark. You might want to erase it. From the corner of the box and back to the vanishing point, okay? I could leave this, if I wanted to just fill this in solid, I sure could. Okay, and that's the way you set up an overlapping box. So this part of the box you don't see. Back in here, you don't see that part of the box. Okay. Shade the side. All the way back to the vanishing point. And again, out there, folks, you do not have to make yours look exactly like mine. I'm just showing you how it works. You can make your shapes or do as many different size boxes as you wanted to. I'm just showing you the basics here. Now, what you should have when you're done, you should have, it looks like there's a box here, and then some space, and then the next box, okay? And the thing about it, if these were buildings, you would have a building here, maybe a parking lot or a driveway here, and then the next building here, okay? Show you one more time up here. I'm going to start off with a square. So there's my square. And again, I did not draw all the square because it's hiding back behind this one. When you're working in one-point perspective, it's easier if you start on the outside and you work your way back in towards your vanishing point, okay? All right, and perspective lines. So that hasn't changed. We're going to take those right on back to the vanishing point. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And there, it looks like that box is overlapping that box. If I wanted to cut this one off, maybe I do, maybe. So I'm going to match this vertical with this vertical. This horizontal, I got to match it. It's going to be here. Okay, this vertical and this horizontal have to meet back here. I could have put it here if I wanted to, but they always have to match up. Okay, this has to touch this one. This is a lot smaller than this one because it's further away. It's going back to the vanishing point. It's a lot shorter. Okay. Remember, keep that flat. It's going to match this line, okay? Now, if you wanted to make this box look hollow like it was open like we did here, what you got to do is you got to figure out where the corner would be. So somewhere behind in here, that's where that corner would be. Okay, but you can't see it because it's hiding back behind this one. But it would be right about there. So I'm going to use that point is where I'm going to start my line to my vanishing point. So I don't draw it here, I just draw it here. So that's where that line would come from. It's a kind of an imaginary place, so you have to find it where those lines crisscross. It's in there. We don't want that to show, so I'm going to erase that away a little bit. Now I've got the inside of this box, and if I shade it in, again, I'm changing my direction on my shading lines. Starting dark down in here, getting lighter and lighter and lighter as we come out of the box. And you can little more light. Way back in here in the box, there's not a lot of light, so I can make that pretty dark. Make this even a little darker yet. I'm using an H pencil, which is a little bit of a harder pencil. I'm getting a pretty light gray. If you have an HB pencil or a number 2 pencil, you're going to get a little bit of a darker line, which is great for shading, but you want to keep it light when you're drawing it first so you can erase it. You can see that there's that edge here. So the top is here, the inside of the top is here, and this is the side wall here. I'm going to kind of define that with a little more shading. Where this box almost looks like this is floating almost into that box. It's kind of nice. I'm going to take all this away. And you can see that you just keep doing those. You can have a lot of fun and really make a cool looking drawing with a lot of 3D. You know, think about it like they're in outer space or floating through the sky. You can have a lot of fun with these, just these basic shapes. Not even talking about buildings or anything yet. And just take your time, have some fun with it. And, you know, you can see where some of my shading lines went outside of where I wanted it to be. You just go in there, just tap it with the eraser. Sometimes you can even get away with just kind of using your finger to smudge it a little bit. I'll tighten this up a little bit with my eraser. Drawing with my eraser, actually. Taking away things that I don't want. And you can get a real nice effect. If you're lucky enough to have an art kit with some different pencils, you could use a 2B or any of the B pencils will give you a softer pencil and give you a darker color, and you can use that in here. So you know, check your pencils on a piece of practice paper first. You can see what you got. Okay. All right, great job, guys. Keep up the good work. Work on those sketchbooks. Keep playing around with this. Have some fun with this, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Bye.